On Monday, April 14th, from 7 to 8:30 at my home, I had a educational group for single moms, and our focus was time management, myth or reality. There were six participants in the group. We started the group with an interest introduction. I introduced myself to the group, let them know what my experience was. The group introduced themselves also to me. They pretty much knew each other, but we did get a chance to spend a few minutes introducing ourselves to each other. The group we started, the first exercise was using a dyad, and we had them pair up, and when they paired up, they had to talk about this particular question: Is time management a myth or reality? And they talked about that for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then they came back and reported back what did they feel if time management was a myth or reality. And that was pretty interesting to see the different thoughts on that. I used a mini lecture to talk about how time can never be managed. Everybody gets the same 24 hours in the day. Some people go to bed, they are happy because they got all their priorities completed. They may not have gotten everything they wanted done, but they did get their priorities completed. And so we talked about priority management, how other people go to bed and they're not happy because they didn't get their priorities done and they don't know where they lost time. And so we talked about where people lose time and how they can track their time and how they can start focusing on priority management. I would also use rounds, and rounds I used rounds to get people talking. And then you were, just so that there was nobody sitting quiet and wanting to be lectured to. I did not want it to be lecture heavy. I wanted them to be involved in talking because each parent are in different stages of parenting. Some have multiple children, some only have one children, some have teenagers, and some have younger children. And so I wanted that input from everybody. So I would use rounds to kind of draw out and to deepen the focus. If somebody just kind of talked about, you know, some of the things that they were doing and why they still seem to run out of time, I would deepen the focus by asking questions. What made them choose that particular task as a priority over other tasks, such as cleaning, a closet over making your children's doctor's appointments, or cleaning the room, versus doing the laundry when you know that the children have to have their laundry done. So we would always take that time to deepen the focus when people would just talk about their priorities and how things would work, and we would explore what was their reasoning behind choosing one task over other tasks. And it was interesting to find that some parents were just bored with the task, or they just got caught up and they didn't really prioritize what they think that they should do. So we did that. Then we also had we also had some parents in there that recently got married, and that added a different dynamic, and they were able to talk about their transition from being a single parent to being married, and sometimes they still had the same time management issues, or what we would call priority management. My reflection on in my performance, I feel that I did well. I do a lot of group leading, and I feel I did well. It was just different. I never led single parents before, but I believe it went well. At the end, we talked about closing out. What was one thing that you were going to continue to do, and what was one thing you're going to stop doing, and what was one thing you're going to start doing now that you had this information. And it was interesting to see how people, those parents, decided, that they already were going to change their habits on how they prioritize. And they gave some examples on how they were going to use the ABC method on prioritization so that they would stop running out of time, and that they were going to stop wasting time by being on social media and things like that because they realized that they was running out of time. So the highlight of my experience was number one was just working with single parents. My wife and I have been married for 40 years, and I never did a group with just single parents focused on time management. Doing an educational group on time management with single parents, but I've always done educational groups with with supervisors and business leaders when we talked about, time management. And it was interesting to see how that time management related even, or priority management related even to single moms. I think one of the things that, I need to continue to focus on is not to over lecture, because as a trainer by trade, I can find myself over lecturing. But this time I highly focused on not over lecturing and making sure that I used rounds to keep the participants talking, and to deepen the focus, I will continue to use rounds. So my concluding thought is that so far I've learned a lot of things in this particular course on groups, and put names of things that I may have done just out of instinct, but being more aware of some of the things that we could do and should do, and being intentional about them, such as the dyads and the rounds, was very helpful in my ability to present to this group.